What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash Podcast, your number one resource for all that is happening in the emerging tech space. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch this show. Today, I'm joined once again by Ran to discuss the latest that's happening with Orbs. Obviously, they're on a mission to bring CeFi-level execution to DeFi. But we're also going to talk about what we've missed since we last had an episode with them and what their updates are internally, the partnerships they have going on, and what the rest of their year is kind of shaping up to be. And we'll talk about the market a little bit as well. But Rand, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure as well. Best way to get started is people already know who you are. So tell us what's been going on lately with Orbs. Any cool updates, announcements? What's the first half of 2025 kind of been like for you guys so far?
Yeah, thank you. Bunch of stuff, honestly. A lot's been going on. Try to have like a unified narrative to what's going on. But sometimes it looks like it's a big mess. But we've been around for a very long time, build our own network, decentralized network of nodes, essentially allowing for enhanced execution. Devs can use us to build more complex logics for dApps, so fully decentralized still, but you can do more than you could do with just EVM smart contracts. That was a hard sell for a while. So we decided to build our own use cases, kind of explain and show the value of our infra. I think that was what we mostly discussed last time I was on. We're kind of pursuing trying to get as much integrations as we can to our different protocols, being advanced order types, liquidity hub, perpetual hub, our different kind of suite of products. And that's been massively successful. We've kind of became, I would say, the most widely kind of layer three enhanced execution kind of solution out there. We've been working with most of the big dApps, DEXs mostly. So Pancake Swap, Sushi Swap, Quick Swap, Spooky Swap, Athena, many more. So we have like 20 something integrations across 10 plus chains. So that's what we've done so far. And now we're kind of planning out, okay, well, we've done all of this. Now what's going to be the next step and what we do when we grow up? That's kind of what we have in mind now, working on right now.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of partnerships from SwapX and SpookyX and whatnot. A lot of DeFi-based swaps that I think you guys have been engaged in. Are you mostly focused on DeFi partnerships at the moment, or do you want to expand beyond that going into the rest of the year?
So I think the definition of what is DeFi is kind of changing, but yeah, definitely we're focused on DeFi, right? Like what our layer does is help people build more robust things in a way that's still decentralized. So forever we will be kind of trying to target the DEX side of things, the DeFi side of things. But it is interesting to see how more institutionals kind of coming into DeFi, building more stuff. There. So we're seeing some use cases emerging of trying to have more institutional participation in DeFi. And I can talk about that more if you'd like. But so still super focused on DeFi, but we feel like DeFi ecosystem is kind of reshaping itself and changing, and we try to be, there and relevant for all the different kind of things that pop out.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. There seems to be quite an institutional land grab in this space here in 2025. A lot of it started last year too, but institutions, companies, asset managers, they're all trying to get into this space now. And there's a lot of interest in the financial side of it too, in DeFi, trying to find ways to merge TradFi and DeFi. Bank of America came out the other day, said that they're going to launch their own Bank of America stablecoin. Didn't see that coming. The Genius Act is going to probably get passed in the US, which is going to lay a foundation for stablecoins in the US, which also kind of supports DeFi. I've seen a lot of interest in yield-bearing assets and yield-bearing stablecoins. It almost feels like a stable kind, like there was a DeFi summer back in like 2020. It's like a stablecoin summer coming. Maybe we can kind of touch on that a little bit. Would love to get your opinion on what you're seeing from that front in terms of the institutional side getting involved in crypto, but more specifically, I think the DeFi side of the space.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're seeing, massive institutional inflow. Starts off like, of course, with Bitcoin, and then kind of trickles down to like more things, I would say. Yeah, definitely stables is a big one. I think the big difference between DeFi Summer and Stable Summer is the APYs. Because you wish we could have the same APYs we had in DeFi Summer, in Stable Summer as well. Um, no, but I mean, with respect to uh, specifically institutional participation in DeFi, I guess there's one big hurdle, and the big hurdle is the regulatory, is the AML KYC. So when you see institutionals who come in, they want to use a DEX, they essentially swap against pools. The problem is they can't verify that the people who provide liquidity to the pool are KYC'd. Maybe it's terrorists, maybe it's drug money, maybe, Um, so I guess that's the biggest hurdle at the moment, still keeping institutional from really diving into DeFi. Because the DEX is kind of like the basic component in DeFi. Everything's built upon the DEX. If you have a vault, it interacts with the DEX. If you have lending, it interacts with the DEX. If you can't interact with liquidity pools, there's not a lot you can do in DeFi. One way people are solving this is essentially building out permission pools. So that's one of the use cases of UniV4. There's something I know Coinbase is working on as well, trying to build like a AMM that's compliant. Essentially, all of the liquidity that sit in certain pools is liquidity that pass KYC, and then institutionals can feel kind of comfortable swapping against that pool or lending against that pool. And that's something we're seeing happening more and more now. And we definitely think this is going to be, if this becomes like more broadly adopted and more people use it, I definitely feel this is something that can have more can essentially enable more institutional participation in DeFi. For us, one of the use cases we're working on, Perpetual Hub, hasn't been announced yet publicly, but one of the things we're working on is essentially, so our Perpetual Hub is an intent-based system. Essentially, it's perp depths similar to Hyperliquid, but it's not order book based, not AMM based. It's intent based, meaning every time somebody comes to trade, a hedger would take the other side of the trade and go hedge themselves against wherever. It could be DeFi or CeFi. Now, with that kind of structure, you can easily have the hedger only hedge against KYC venues, let's say Coinbase, for example. With that, you can essentially have a venue where institutionals can feel quite comfortable trading because they know the counterparty is always KYC. So this is a use case we haven't launched yet, but we're actively working on, that we hope could help institutional trade where they can't now. I think it's difficult for institutional now to go trade on Hyperliquid, for example. So maybe they could on Liquidity Hub.
Yeah, and I think it was like a week ago, the SEC in the US said that they were going to exempt DeFi from a lot of the regulatory hurdles that a traditional finance company has to go through. And they're doing it because they want to spark innovation in the US. And I think it's a good move because I think it'll help these institutions, these large companies, those that are wanting to play around in the space and build out actual use cases and applications, I think more confidence in doing so. Because obviously the last few years or so, it's been very harsh and there's been lawsuits everywhere and it's like driven everything offshore. And I did an episode the other day when we were talking about all the reverse mergers and companies wanting to come back into the US now.
Yeah,
This full 180 that has
we have
happened.
we have somebody we have somebody starting to pitch us a spec merger every week now, a spec merger. So yeah, it's
I
definitely
believe you.
going on.
Do you feel like the U.S. is, with all the changes that are happening, the full 180 in terms of how they want to regulate the space or at least allow innovation now to happen? Do you think the U.S. is going to be a primed playground for DeFi going forward, or do you think that so much has moved, offshore to Europe, to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to Dubai that it's going to stay that way for the time being? Because I know that there's a bit more favorable framework out there compared to the US still. But do you think that the US is going to be a good place to do that going forward?
One, I really hope so. I think the U.S. has established itself as the prime place of doing business for most industries historically, and I hope it will be the same for DeFi. I think so. Like optimistic note for the U.S. I feel like founders move very quickly. So founders know how to move to Dubai or like UAE when they need to very quickly, and they can also move back very quickly. If you put the right framework in place and the right incentives in place, I think people don't get stuck in a jurisdiction for very long and are very happy to hop over if possible or to start their next business in a different place. So I think that obviously you had like very bad regulatory ambiguity for years now in the US. Now that's definitely changing. Um, so yes, people like establish their stuff elsewhere, but I feel like people will come back. I'm already seeing projects will come back. So I'm quite bullish on the US in that respect. I do think we need to have stuff in law. We need to have stuff not just by a presidential decrees, not just like the new guy that's just in appointed to the SEC said something positive about and everybody kind of try to read into it. I think having like proper regulation in place, having clear laws in place, something that's very important. I think obviously the new administration is super crypto friendly, which is amazing for us. But I really hope that will stick, because if we have like 4 years of that, and then you have another administration, they're going to do another 180 again.
Sure.
That's going to
Hopefully not.
be hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, that's going to be very bad. I feel like everything is like so like partisan now. But anyways, let's see how it goes. But yeah, so I think US is really primed to kind of take back the industry. I think it can happen quite easily. And I feel like it's amazing that we have all these officials now saying positive things about crypto. And yeah, obviously like canceling lawsuits and stuff, but we still don't have like actual regulatory framework in place. That's what I'm really looking for. But people saying, oh, we exempt like DEXs out of regulation. I mean, we don't really want the industry to be like fully exempt from regulation. We just want to have like proper regulation that kind of fits this technology, fits our industry, and is really relevant for what we do. I don't think it doesn't have to be binary. Either you can't do it or like there's no regulation. It's not the Wild West. We can have like proper regulation in place, and then I think that would be the thing that would help us most. And other countries try to do their small framework here and there. You have frameworks in Singapore, and you have frameworks in Switzerland, you have in the UAE, and you have like in all this offshore structure. Like USA is still, the leading country in the Western world, and I feel if US like really takes this seriously, and still it's better that they say random positive things than random negative things, but we still need a proper regulation in place, proper framework. And I feel like if the US does it, I think most countries will follow suit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I've always been a proponent for regulation, just not regulation by enforcement and not regulation that, crushes innovation. You don't want to do that. I think with just about anything, I think the only way to move society forward in a positive way is to foster innovation. But it was weird the last 3-4 years or so where it was just very, very harsh. And the 180 is just kind of awkward. Like, I'm very happy that the US is like, yes, come here, innovate, bring your projects, bring your companies. We want to support you. We want to lead in crypto and Web3. And they're doing that through like putting off regulation, putting off through exemptions and whatnot, which I get, but I don't also agree with, because I think there needs to be a framework so that people know what the rules are, right? Because if you don't know what the rules are, and then people will start doing the bad things, the nefarious things, and I don't think that's an area of the crypto world we necessarily want to go back to, because we worked hard to change that image over time. So while I'm happy that it's like, yeah, come back to the US, do what you want to do, let's have fun. It also makes me nervous because I don't want to create a bad narrative 2, 3, 4 years down the line where we have another FTX type event, right? Or we have billions of dollars lost, or millions of customers that are hurt, or people are doing bad things. So there's definitely a need for that proper regulation to be put in place. And the US is it's so partisan. It's always kind of behind on that front. And I'm hoping that we can get something done. Maybe the Genius Act is kind of like a first step there, at least with stable coins, but there needs to be more. I agree with you on that front.
Yeah, definitely. And but still the direction is good. For us, I'll give you an example. We're Orbs is a POS chain, a delegated POS. I think we're the first POS chain live after EOS back in the day. We're live since March 2019. And we always kind of had that ambiguity above our head about whether being POS makes you more likely to be considered as a security, blah, blah, blah. Always kind of thing that kind of floated above our head. Nobody could really give us clarity because there's no case law about this stuff. I just kind of lived with this for like 7 years now. And then we have an SEC commissioner coming saying, "Oh, by the way, POS tokens are like, are not securities." Like, whoa, we're like blown out. We couldn't believe it. So you have somebody say it after all these years. So yeah, still, so we need while we definitely need proper regulation. Yeah, definitely the direction right now is quite positive. So that's good.
What are you seeing on the side of yield earning opportunities in the space? Working with a lot of these DeFi projects and swaps and providing them liquidity and partnering with them. Yeah, again, I know on the institutional front, there's this massive demand and push right now for whether it's, some yield bearing asset or stable coins that produce really good yield. Obviously they want something stable that they can put on their balance sheet and that, turns over really well over a period of time. But it seems to be like quite a trend right now. I'm just curious, if you see like any trends kind of coming out of the yield generation, yield bearing kind of side of the space, whether that's in like RWAs and real world assets or in the stablecoin side of things, or maybe something more exploratory in DeFi with digital assets. How do you kind of see that trend shaping up going forward?
Yeah. So I guess, okay. So I guess there's like good and bad going on. So on the one hand, APYs, like you can get APYs, like good, kind of safe, steady APYs and stable now in DeFi and by the way in CeFi as well. And that's stuff you didn't have before. I would say, yeah, stables and base assets as well. For us, Bitcoin and Ethereum are quite stable as well. So it's all comparative. You have a lot of these right now. So yeah, so like no, if like 5 years ago you just hold like Bitcoin on your balance sheet or just like Ethereum on your balance sheet or just hold we held USDC for years without getting any APY on them. Um, so now just holding any asset without getting APY is kind of a waste. You can find something good that can give you like the 5, 6, 7% quite easily without crazy risk on the one hand. On the other hand, the stuff that gives you the 30% APY that we used to have are becoming more scarce now, mostly because of the reward tokens. Back in DeFi summer, any reward token would come out, just like massively explode in price. And kind of, that would be like, so you provide liquidity on a DEX, you suffer some impermanent loss, but then you also make, a bunch of rewards and fees plus the native token. And because those native tokens don't go up as much as they used to, then it's harder to kind of find with strategies that will give you the crazy APYs. But there's still a bunch of strategies with people, still a bunch of strategies with risk. So it's kind of like I feel like the risk reward kind of shifted a bit. Um, I know we're still seeing the same stuff. People looping, right? Like they get some APY, you get some rewards, you convert that, you lose. So that's something we're seeing a lot with all different like projects and vaults kind of offering these stuff. Also, we're pretty big fans of V33 dexes and tokens, like revenue generating tokens. Um, we've seen a few people building out like self-repaying loans where you can like collateralize revenue, like rev share tokens or dividend tokens, and then essentially, the asset kind of pays, like the loan pays itself out just from revenue. So that's cool. That's a new thing. We have at least a couple of partners working on this stuff right now. So that's cool. That's interesting for us. Um, yeah, but honestly, it's not as crazy as it used to be. So before, if Altseason come and all these reward tokens are going to start pumping again, then you'll have, strategies and layering strategies, layering, layering, going to have like dozens of new projects in weeks. But for now, it's kind of,
Who would have thought we'd have a stable summer? Like I didn't see that one
yeah.
coming. Okay, so here's the big question. Do you think altcoin season is coming at all this year? Is the narrative dead for 2025 or are we going to have a big surprise?
I don't know. I was waiting last year. I thought it was coming last year. But listen, I feel like, Bitcoin's doing its move. I felt like between Bitcoins and memes, um, I know how you call these like tokens like us or altcoins, dino coins, like actual tokens that have some business behind them and stuff, kind of like lost the spotlight. I feel the moment that Bitcoin is going to stagnate a bit, people will go back to looking for some alternative assets. Memes are fun, but it's not for everyone, especially not for institutionals. And yeah, we'll see money goes back into altcoins. And the moment that happens, it kind of triggers, a full on kind of cycle because again, the moment tokens start to go up, all the rewards become much more attractive. So more liquidity comes in. And then, yeah, so I feel like, it could be like a positive spiral kind of thing, a positive loop. Um, yeah, and I feel it's gonna come. Whether it's gonna be this year, next year, I don't know, but at some point it's gonna come. Like I don't think, 90% of assets are gonna die. I feel like it's gonna come back.
Yeah, I think the market is just oversaturated at this point. 2017 and even 2021, there was a lot less projects and chains out there for people to even consider putting their money into, to inject liquidity into, to play with, to explore. And there's so much now. And then there's, Bitcoin is, sucking the market dry right now. And now that you can somewhat build on Bitcoin and people are trying to figure out how to create DeFi on Bitcoin. And it's like Bitcoin is just a monster at the moment. I think that's just been the focus. And then there's other economic factors too that I think are holding the market back, and interest rates are super high and people aren't, sure if they should speculate with their money and take risk on assets into their portfolio given everything that's happening in the world and what's happening with markets. And are we going to go into a recession or not? Are we going to have more inflation? It's kind of crazy, at least from the American perspective. I'm sure that kind of reverberates in other places of the world too. But it's hard for someone to justify speculating into anything that's highly volatile with their money if they don't know what's going to happen. I think that's also a big part of it. And Bitcoin has just proven itself very well, and it's held and it's still going, and it's what's it at, like 107,000 today. Um, and it's just constantly pushing upwards again, just I think sucking the market dry. But at some point that's going to turn over, people will take profits, and then it's just a matter of, do people want to go right back to cash and or stable coins, or do they want to pour over into alts like they usually do? I think that's what I'm waiting for, at least, to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Agree to that. I think like at least a good amount of like Bitcoin profits gonna go back into the industry, go back to the ecosystem. Um, yeah, and yeah, it's become more complex. It's harder to find the right assets. There's so many new projects coming out every day. As a project, it's very hard to get like past that kind of like attention kind of threshold for people to even notice you exist. But yeah, I feel like it's gonna come back. It has to come back. Um, and project like us, what we need to do is just like really position well kind of for it. When it comes and picks you up, and at least that's what we saw in the last. Again, we're a 2017 project, so last three cycles already. So yeah, just waiting for the right timing and to be around.
Absolutely. What do you think about Bitcoin Fi right now? Is Orbs in a position where it wants to interact with that side of the ecosystem as well? Like, do you want to work with any Bitcoin based projects that might be cropping up? I know that side of the space is heating up quite a bit and is very popular. Does that kind of fit your guys' mission and ethos as well? Or I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so definitely, I think one is very very interesting. Where we all start from Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first asset I ever had. I think most people in the industry, Bitcoin was where they started. We still hold like a bunch of crypto on balance sheet. Sorry, bunch of Bitcoin on balance sheet. Um, and yeah, definitely interested. Um, it's not easy from a technology perspective. Bitcoin fires. There's like a bunch of big challenges people are kind of trying to solve. But we're definitely yeah, trying to position ourselves to be able to take part in that. We haven't yet. Right now we're only EVM and Tone. That's the only non-EVM chain we ever worked on. Um, but definitely looking very closely into that ecosystem and looking forward to kind of take part.
What's in your ecosystem right now that maybe is something you're excited about at the moment? I know that you guys have a lot that you're working on, and the ecosystem for Orbs is quite large. But is there anything that stands out that's of interest to you guys, or trends that you're seeing in terms of developments? What kind of catches your eye?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, so we try really to integrate. So we're B2B2C, right? We work with DEXs, AMMs, different types of trading venues only, and we build products they offer their users. Um, so one, we're seeing like different kind of ecosystems emerge, like new chains, new L2s, new L1s. So really try to stay active. You mentioned SwapX as one of our partners. So, Sonic, like Phantom was kind of dying out. They did this like revamped with Sonic. We just because we know the Phantom team way back, we kind of assumed it's gonna be good. So we work with different partners there. Um, One of them SwapX, Spooky as well. We're building out with Shadow now. Kind of bet on that new ecosystem, and we saw massive volumes come from there. So we're happy. So we're trying to keep um, now a lot of teams we work with are building on new chains. Like HyperVM is supposed to be quite good. Waiting for that to launch. Monad. There's a bunch of new kind of chains coming up. That's just on the integration side. And from a technology side, there's a lot of new stuff coming in. I think the most interesting component for us that's emerged as a thing you can actually use in production is TEES. TEES, I never know how to pronounce it, trusted execution. So essentially you finally have technology where you can essentially verify the code that is run by nodes in real time. We think using that technology, incorporating that into our network would allow us to offer a much broader suite of services that can be run on Orbs. So this is super exciting technology, and a few different projects are kind of looking into how to use it right now. I don't think it's live in the wild yet, but we definitely in the race of kind of like bringing that to market as a technology that actually allows you to run a decentralized network. So that's also something that we think is super cool.
Is that on the timeline? Like, do you know when that might come out, or is it kind of just up in the air?
So one of the things we're doing now, we're going to V's. That's the boring part. We're finishing our V4, which has a bunch of stuff with respect to like node execution and how the committee works and stuff like that. And then we want to announce our V5, and T's are going to be a major component in our T5s. That's a scoop. We never mentioned that before anywhere. But yeah, it's going to be a major component of what we built for our V5s. I assume this will be announced later this year, but probably wouldn't go live until 2026.
Gotcha. Well, let's go V4 and V5.
Yeah,
Exciting.
everybody keeps telling me, stop saying numbers. Nobody cares about numbers. We need to find names.
Well, what else is on the roadmap for you guys as you go into the second half of this year? Are you guys going to be traveling around? Any conferences, events, anything in regards to V4 or even V5 that you want to talk about or announce, or is that for later on?
Yeah, so conferences, let's start with that. Yeah, a bunch of them coming up. We just came back from Tokyo, couple like last week actually. That was nice. We had some community meetups, not like a big conference or anything, but that was good. Next on the radar, we have Ethereum Community Conference in Cannes. That's going to be in I think a couple of weeks. Also, it's a short flight, so that's going to be nice. I like Ethereum conferences like ETH Denver, DevCon, ETC. Always, very good kind of community DeFi people. Not too many money people, so that's good for us. We're not raising, so can't be bothered with another VC or hedge fund. It's nice to meet builders. So ETC is going to be good. Then summer's kind of quiet. The next year, so no, sorry, not next year, but like I think in school year terms. But after September, we're gonna have KBW in Korea. That's always a big one for us. We have a pretty big Korean community. Gonna do probably Token 2049 Dubai. That's all. Sorry, Token 2049 Singapore. That's always a good one. Dubai we attended this year, and DevCon is in Buenos Aires this year, and I
Oh,
really
wow.
want to go. I've never
Nice.
been.
That's deep.
Uh, yeah, I've never been, but I super want to go. Also, there's there's a bunch of people like from Buenos Aires, or generally Argentina, who are into crypto. We know a bunch of different teams. So we have friends on the ground. Maybe show us around. So I'm quite excited for that.
Yeah, I wish they did more events in Latin America. I know they've done a lot of DevCon stuff, but like that's kind of it. And there's I live in Colombia, so I can say firsthand, like there's a lot of interest of people that don't want to just buy into the space and invest their money and play around with meme coins, but that want to actually build something. Like there's a lot of interest in developing and becoming a developer and learning some of these different chains and networks. And I wish there was more that was done kind of in the region. There's a lot of it in Argentina, here in Colombia. Bogota is a huge hub for it as well. Um, yeah, I don't know, but hopefully there's more stuff in the future.
Yeah, we work with very good teams who are, came out of Latin America. Yeah, both yeah, like Uruguay and Argentina, and really, really good teams. So and good founders as well. So I'll be very happy to, yeah, to see more going on, and be, be there myself. Also, you can have worse destinations with Buenos Aires. Sounds fun.
Rand, once again, where can people go to check out Orbs and keep up with all the latest that's happening, the updates, what's happening in the ecosystem, as well as if they want to dive into the community? Where would you send people?
Yeah, so very generally our website, orbs.com, and for more current stuff, our Twitter, Orbs Network. That's probably the best place to see what's new, what's going on. I'm there, Hammers86R. You can DM me if you want. DM's open. Yeah, come along.
Awesome, man. We'll put everything in the description for the episode below, and yeah, we'll let everyone know where to go. And let's do this again soon. Been a really good conversation. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much. Fun as always.